Hi guys, welcome back to Andrea Talks. Thank you so much for joining me here today. First off, I just wanted to thank everybody for viewing my last video, commenting, liking. I really appreciate it, and also all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me on this channel. So before we get right into everything today, I really wanted to film this video outside. I thought it'd be amazing to kind of have the sun shining and like the birds outside and whatnot, but it's pouring rain. So obviously that's not happening today. And so we're back inside. Hopefully the lighting's not too bad. It's a bit, gloomy, but I've tried my best and I hope you guys like this video. So today, in terms of what we're going to talk about, I thought it'd be great to discuss the topic of relationships, but not like everything about relationships, because that's obviously a huge topic, but in particular the topic of why we tend to find ourselves in the same kind of relationships time and time and time and time again, despite all of our efforts and all of our best intentions. We seem to sort of stumble upon people who, either remind us of previous partners or are very similar to previous partners, or if they're not, then the same sort of dynamics tend to crop up in our relationships. So today I want to, delve right into that and talk all about why that actually happens. Like, what is the sort of psychology or the science behind that, and what, more importantly, we can actually do about it, and what we can do to move forward and get out of that, get unstuck from those patterns. So first off, to really understand why things are happening in the here and now for us, we do have to take a step back and go all the way back to our childhood and look at those sort of moments in time. And the reason being is that our most formative and important relationships occurred in our childhood. So usually with our parental figures, sometimes with other sort of people who were our primary caregivers, right? So for most of us, we're talking about the relationships with our mother and our father. For others, it might be grandparents, it might be foster parents, it might be even like aunts, uncles, whoever was there for you most of the time, and was really in that role of their being the primary caregiver for you. So basically, once you sort of thought about that, and once you sort of established who was your primary caregiver, and for this video I will just kind of go along with mother and father as the primary examples for it. So once you've kind of established that, you then need to sort of think about, okay, how are my relationships with those people? Like, how did I feel with those people? Were there any issues? Was there any tension? Did they, provide what I needed? Did they fulfill not only sort of like my materialistic, like physical related needs, such as, food on the table and, financial sort of stability within the house, but did they also meet my other needs, like my emotional needs, my spiritual needs, my intellectual needs? Like, did they provide that for me? Were they there for me when it came to that? Or was there something lacking? Like, was there always kind of a sense of, it would have been nice if, or I wish, like my mother and I had been closer, but, so were there any questions for you from that time period regarding kind of like how those relationships developed, and was there a part of you that felt kind of like a longing need for more? So thinking about that, then we can sort of pinpoint which of those relationships, one or both, usually it's one, but sometimes both, which of those relationships were the most problematic and left you kind of with what we would call a core wound, okay? So just moving into this video, moving forward, I'm gonna just focus on one of those examples. So let's say you had a really difficult time with your mom, right? the relationship with your mom always kind of was a little bit on edge, and you struggled, and you always were left feeling like you wanted more. So that was the initial sort of like wounding relationship. And so what will happen moving forward, and again, my air freshener, every single video, we're gonna hear it. So moving forward, what's going to happen is that pattern that was established with your mother, that dynamic, will be subconsciously ingrained. And then what will then happen is then you will subconsciously attract people, so other women in your lifetime. Let's say you're in relationships or you're wanting to date women, you'll subconsciously attract women who actually are very similar to your mother, or the way that you interact with them, the dynamics that are created with them, mimic very similarly how you and your mother used to interact. And so throughout your lifetime, you might notice that if that original core wound, that original sort of difficult relationship was never addressed, or was never sort of like looked at seriously and sort of worked on, you'll unfortunately subconsciously attract women who are very similar to that moving forward. And the issue with that is they will sort of re-traumatize you, re-trigger that wounding that happened very early on for you. So that's why you might think to yourself, you might sit there and wonder, like, why is it that every relationship is sort of very similar for me, or I get back into the same sort of patterns, and the same sort of issues tend to crop up time and time and time again. And so that's kind of the explanation as to why, is that it's a subconscious programming that then drives you, and you're not, like I said, you're not aware of this most of the time that it's happening, but it drives you to seek out companions that are very similar, or that will result in very similar dynamics to the original core wound related to that primary caregiver relationship. Okay, so that's why it's super, super important to think back, go back, and try to really unpeel those layers, right, of your childhood, and think, like, what was it about my parental relationships that didn't really work for me? Which one worked? Which one didn't? Did they both kind of not work? And how is that then linked to the patterns that I'm seeing in my life right now? Because it certainly is linked, right? And once you can sort of connect those dots, right? Like once you can sort of say to yourself, okay, well, I think it's my mom, or I think it's my dad that I kind of struggled with more. And that's why now I kind of understand why I'm attracting these kind of partners, right? Then you have to take it a step above that, and you have to say, okay, so I'm attracting these partners and they're sort of re-traumatizing that core wound in me. So now the answer is, let's look at the core wound, right? Let's think about, what is it that I need to fix within myself so that it isn't mirrored, it isn't externalized on the outside, right? Because whatever we see on the outside, whatever's bothering us on the outside, whatever is, you know, traumatic for us or difficult for us on the outside, is typically, usually, most likely, a reflection of something that is actually within us, and that we need to look at, and that we need to sort of address. So in a nutshell, I know that's a lot of information, but basically that's sort of my explanation, my rationale as to why you might be attracting the same sort of people time and time and time again, no matter what you do, and how you can take the first steps towards fixing that, what that looks like, and why it's so important to look within yourself and see kind of what core wounds you might still be struggling with that are, you know, playing into your current reality as we speak. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Bye now.